Okay, welcome everyone. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Travis Brown, who is an 8th grade math teacher at Magathie River Middle School in Anne Arundel County. And let Travis, if you want to say anything more about yourself or you can just take it away. It's up to you.
No, I think I'm good. I'm ready to get this going. If you guys
All right. We're very much looking forward to your presentation.
1 second. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Travis Brown. I want to start by thanking everyone that was able to make time to hear my dissertation defense. I want to extend a special thank you to Dr. Larson for serving as my dissertation chair. It's been great working with you. I also need to thank my 2 readers, Dr. Fenster and Dr. Holsted. Dr. Fenster has worked with me on this project from the very beginning, and Dr. Holsted gave me great feedback, and her content expertise was very helpful. And finally, I want to thank the PhD committee for taking the time to read my work and listen to my presentation. So the title of my dissertation is Towards a Theory of Flow for Positive Youth Development, the Association Between Engagement in After-School Programs and Academic and Behavioral Competencies. So why this topic? It's 3 p.m. Do you know where your children are and what they are doing? So oddly enough, this broadcast was first heard over the radio waves in York, PA, which happens to be where I grew up. And during my childhood, the time between 3 and 6 p.m. was spent playing soccer, basketball, baseball, practicing the saxophone, or working on my homework, all under the careful watch of a coach, a friend's parent, or my own parents. And then once I started teaching, I quickly realized that that level of care and support is not necessarily the norm. A lot is different since I was young. Family dynamics, community life expectations for youth have changed a lot. So as a teacher and more recently a parent, I clearly see that after-school programs are ideally situated to reverse longstanding inequities in youth opportunities and their experiences. On a more personal note, after-school programs have always been an important part of my life while I was growing up. I learned a lot. I built lasting friendships. And when I started this project, I was a single teacher living in Baltimore by myself. And fast forward 8 years or so, I'm now married, and we just had our second daughter a little over a month ago. So as a parent, this research project is great of importance to me because my daughter's development is now one of my #1 priorities. So this is an outline of my presentation. The 4 main sections consist of an introduction, methodology, research findings, and suggestions for future research, and then some questions. So my rationale for this study. There is mounting evidence that suggests where and how youth spend their time after school and out of school has implications for their development. So youth without adult supervision has declined from around 15 million to close to 8 million, but the number of elementary school children that are alone and unsupervised after school has increased to over 850,000. Despite increased awareness and availability of these after-school programs, the unmet demand is nearly twice as high as the current participation. There's nearly 25 million youth who would enroll in an after-school program if one were provided. So there's limited research that details the type, the characteristics, and the level of participation in after-school settings that will yield the greatest influence on youth's academic and behavioral competencies. So my methodology, the purpose of this study was to examine whether center-based after-school programs provided by the school or community-based after-school programs not provided by the school had the greatest influence on academic and behavioral competencies and supports positive youth development. So this is my proposed theoretical and conceptual framework for engagement in after-school programs. To capitalize on the relation between engagement and success, stakeholders, including myself, need to create channels of engagement that integrate all of the components that lead to school engagement and ultimately positive youth development. So these are my 4 research questions that this study examined. In interest of time, I'm not going to read through each one now, but the main topics of investigation include academic and behavioral competencies and how demographics and the number of hours youth participate in after-school programs influence youth outcomes. We will closely examine each one of these when we get to the research findings section of the presentation. So the research design, this study used data from the National Center of Education Statistics of the U.S. Department of Education. Specifically, the data that was used for this study was the After-School Programs and Activities Survey of the National Household Education Surveys Program from 2005. It's the most recent in the series. They collected the information through random digit dial telephone interviews of roughly 11,684 children from kindergarten through 8th grade. And the ASPA 2005 survey focused on after-school care arrangements, including care by relatives, non-relatives in private homes, after-school programs and centers, and activities that provide adult supervision in out-of-school hours and student self-care. So data from the results of the ASPA 2005 survey were used to conduct multiple regression and logistic regression analyses. This image here is a path model for the association between engagement in after-school programs and academic and behavioral competencies. The independent variables for the regression analyses were participation in center-based and community-based after-school arts and sports programs. And the dependent variables for the regression analyses were academic competency measures, meaning higher grades and a decrease in problems with schoolwork, and the behavioral competency measures, which were decreases in problems with behavior, decreases in out-of-school suspensions, and in-school suspensions.
Do we have a frozen brown?
I think we might. I was wondering if it was me. Let's see if he comes back.
I'm sorry, did I freeze?
Yeah.
Gosh,
You
do I need
did,
to
but
go back?
yeah, go back 1 slide. You were on the path model when you froze.
I was going over the independent and dependent variables.
Yep, you got through all the way through the behavioral competency.
Okay, and the I also was saying that you can see the demographic characteristics and the hours spent in the after-school program that served as moderating variables. So my research findings. These 2 tables are the descriptive statistics for the ASPA 2000 survey that were used in the study. Table 1 presents the statistics for the sample demographics. The majority of participants identified their race as white, non-Hispanic, and the sample was approximately evenly split between male and female. There were approximately 28% of the sample that reported a household income of over 100,000, and the majority of the parents and guardians either graduated from college or graduate and professional school. Table 2 displays statistics for after-school arts and sports participation, the academic and behavioral outcomes as well. The average number of hours per week that youth participated in after-school programs was around 4 hours. Approximately 13% of the sample reported participating in center-based after-school arts programs, and 34% reported participating in community-based after-school arts. There was higher participation in sports, with 26% participating in center-based and close to 56% participating in community-based. Okay, so research question 1 examined to what extent academic competency among youth enrolled in center-based after-school programs provided by the school compared to youth enrolled in community-based after-school programs not provided by the school. So to investigate RQ1, 2 regression analyses were performed. Table 3 there presents the linear regression for grades, and Table 4 presents the logistic regression for problems with schoolwork. The regression predicting grades and the regression predicting problems with schoolwork were both significant, which indicated that after-school arts and sports participation was significantly associated with academic competency measures, meaning higher grades and a decrease in problems with schoolwork. The terms for center-based program participation were not significant in both of these models, so therefore there was no difference in the academic outcomes between center-based and community-based participation. Research question 2 examined to what extent behavioral competency among youth enrolled in center-based after-school programs provided by the school compared to youth enrolled in community-based after-school programs not provided by the school. To investigate RQ2, 4 logistic regression analyses were performed. So Table 5 and 6 present Table 5 presents the terms for problems with behavior, and Table 6 presents the terms for out-of-school suspension. The regressions predicting problems with behavior and out-of-school suspension were both significant. This indicated that after-school arts and sports participation was significantly associated with problems with behavior and out-of-school suspension. However, the terms for center-based program participation was not significant for problems with behavior and out-of-school suspension, which indicates that there was no difference in the academic outcomes between community-based and center-based participation. So this next slide is a continuation of the research question 2 for behavioral competencies. Table 7 presents the terms for in-school suspension, and Table 8 presents for expulsion. The regression predicting in-school suspension and expulsion were both insignificant, which indicated that after-school arts and sports participation was not significantly associated with suspension and expulsion. However, the odds ratio for center-based sports participation was significant for in-school suspension. That indicated that youth that participated in center-based sports were more likely than community-based participants to have an in-school suspension. This result may be explained by current after-school recruitment strategies that target at-risk youth, or because access to sports is highly dependent upon family income. Okay, research question 3 and 4 examined how demographic characteristics and the number of hours youth participate in after-school programs moderate the relationship between the type of after-school program and academic and behavioral outcomes. So to investigate RQ3 and RQ4, 6 regression analyses were performed. For the academic outcomes, Table 9 presents the linear regression for grades with the moderating variables, and Table 10 presents the logistic regression terms for problems with schoolwork with the moderating variables. The regression predicting grades and the regression predicting problems with schoolwork were both significant. This indicated that after-school arts and sports participation, along with the moderating variables collectively, were significantly associated with academic competency measures, meaning higher grades and decreases in problem with schoolwork. No interactions with center-based program participation were significant, indicating that the demographic characteristics and hours of participation did not moderate the relationship between the type of after-school program and academic outcomes. However, results did reveal that females were 66% less likely than males to have problems with schoolwork. Another interesting finding was related to females that did not participate in after-school arts. They were 82% more likely to have problems with schoolwork. So that was an interesting finding. So this next slide is a continuation of research questions 3 and 4 based on the demographic characteristics and the number of hours. So for the behavioral outcomes for table 11, this presents the logistic regression for problems with behavior with the moderating variables. The regressions for problem with behavior was significant, and this indicated that after-school arts and sports participation, along with the moderating variables, were significantly associated with problems with behavior, meaning decreases in problems. The interactions for gender showed that females who participated in center-based sports were 2.87 times more likely than males who participated in center-based sports to have problems with behavior. It is important to note that the main effect for gender showed that females were actually 81% less likely than males to have problems with behavior, and this aligns with previous research that suggests males are more prone to risky behaviors. And perhaps most importantly, results revealed that females that are not enrolled in center-based or community-based after-school sports programs, they were 5 times more likely to have problems with behavior. Table 12 presents the logistic regression for suspensions, that's out of school and in school. The regression for out of school and in school suspensions were significant, and this indicated that after school arts and sports participation, along with the moderating variables, were significantly associated with suspensions, meaning a decrease in suspensions. The interaction showed that in terms of race, non-white youth that participated in center-based arts were less likely to have an out-of-school suspension. And in terms of gender, females that participated in center-based arts were more likely to have an in-school suspension, which again might be explained by current recruitment strategies for after-school programs. And table 13 presents the logistic regression terms for expulsions. The regression for expulsions were significant. This indicated that after-school arts and sports participation, along with the moderating variables collectively, were significantly associated with expulsions. The interaction showed that in terms of household income and parent education, youth that participated in center-based arts were less likely to be expelled if their household income was higher, but they were more likely to be expelled if their parents had a higher level of education. And finally, the interaction showed that the more hours per week that youth spent in center-based arts programs, the less likely they were to be expelled. So consistent with prior research, and perhaps most importantly, the study's findings suggest center-based or community-based after-school program participation can provide youth with an inclusive and safe, supportive environment that promotes positive youth development. So in terms of academic competency outcomes, some of the key findings were that youth not enrolled in center-based or community-based after-school arts programs experienced a 0.18 decrease in grades across all subjects, and they were 61% more likely to have problems with schoolwork. Youth, in terms of behavioral outcomes, some of the key findings were youth not enrolled in center-based or community-based after-school arts programs were 61% more likely to experience problems with behavior, 359% more likely to receive an out-of-school suspension, and over 200% more likely to receive an in-school suspension. And finally, youth not enrolled in center-based or community-based after-school sports programs were 63% more likely to experience problems with behavior and 398% more likely to receive an out-of-school suspension. So suggestions for future research. This analysis could be augmented to include youth that participate in more than one after-school program. Research has shown that consistent participation in a wide range of high-quality after-school programs has been shown to provide measurable benefits to youth. So analyzing youth's simultaneous involvement in center-based and also community-based programs would produce a more comprehensive analysis of the specific interactions that support positive youth development. The ASPA 2005 survey does not provide a measurement framework that details or evaluates the quality of after-school programs that youth participate in. So additional research is needed to determine the structure and the organizational practice needed to create high-quality programs that will engage and generate positive outcomes. This study provided a theoretical and conceptual framework that could be used as a blueprint to inform program design and to help measure youth engagement, which we talked about previously. And lastly, future research should take on a longitudinal approach towards investigating the effects high-quality after-school program participation has on youth development. Sustained participation in a wide range of activities has been shown to be beneficial to youth's development. So taking a longitudinal approach would enable stakeholders to examine the primary and also secondary outcomes that after-school programs provide youth, their families, and also their local communities. And any questions? I know that was rapid fire.
All right, Travis, you can go ahead and stop sharing your screen and then people can ask some questions.